go. And good afternoon, everyone, from the Mechanics Institute in San Francisco. My name is Abel Talamantes, I'm the chess director, and with me is Dr. Judith Stare. And on the Mechanics Chess Social this afternoon, we have a very special guest. It is Dan Lucas, who is with the U.S. Chess Federation. He is the Senior Director of Strategic Communication, and we're looking forward to having a little chat and learning more about what he does. How's everything going, Dan? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much for having me on this show. I appreciate it. And yeah, no, things, relative to COVID, everything's going pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, everything almost has to be redefined a little bit in terms of those challenges and limitations. So you have been with the U.S. Chess Federation since 2005. When I was reading a little bit about your background, I know you had other things that you did in life before that, as a lot of us. I'm curious to hear what your background was prior to coming into chess and kind of what drew you into chess and how you got started with that.
Okay, so yeah, I actually, as far as 2005, it was actually December 13th, I remember. So I'm 2 days away from my 15th anniversary with U.S. Chess.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, U.S. Chess is a very different organization now than it was 15 years ago. So yeah, out of college, I was an office manager for a catering company in New York City. I ended up as a retail management for a large retail chain. It was eventually bought out by Dillard's. So if people know Dillard's, that's the kind of store it was. And I absolutely hated retail management. And when my first wife was pregnant with our son, I decided, you know what, I'm miserable. Why don't I quit my job and be a stay-at-home dad? And my wife was a teacher and loved teaching. And so she continued teaching while I stayed home with first my son David and then my daughter Katie. And while I was a stay-at-home dad, I tried something I had always wanted to do, which is freelance writing. I naturally gravitated to chess because I had always been a casual chess player since my father taught me when I was 6 years old. And that eventually led to my getting involved with the Georgia Chess Association when I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I still live. And I decided to try my hand at editing their newsletter. At the time, it was like just a stapled in the corner type of newsletter. I turned it into more of a black and white magazine done on Microsoft Publisher, but it was a nice enough improvement that I got recognized by the Chess Journalists of America for the work I was doing. That put me on the radar screen for U.S. Chess, and when they needed an editor for Chess Life, they called me, and I think before that phone call was over, I was in their office, saying, "Here I am." So I knew the opportunity of a lifetime, and so I started out as director of publications for U.S. Chess, and I was in that role where my main job function was as editor at Chess Life until 2018, when our current executive director, Carol Meyer, created this new position of communications director, and I've been doing that for the last 2 years.
And what was the idea of that reshuffle? Because even to us, we noticed that, it's kind of like a different structure, and now there's, strategic communications and then an editor. What was the idea behind that?
Yeah, so Carol recognized that we just really weren't getting our message out there proactively. We have Chess Life, we have Chess Life Kids, and we have Chess Life online at uschess.org. But there wasn't somebody overall managing all of that. At the time, when I was doing Chess Life, and for a while I was doing Chess Life Kids until Melinda Matthews started editing that magazine. But Jennifer Shahade was the CLO digital editor. And so, things were just kind of being done in their own little buckets. And we didn't have a cohesive strategic plan for getting the message out there. And she asked me if I would be interested in this new role. And much like when I was hired, I was, yes, before she finished the question. I saw it as a great opportunity and a great next step for me.
So it was almost kind of like you were going to be taking the role of kind of creating the larger branding, that larger vision of how to communicate
Right.
through different channels.
Exactly. So now I'm responsible for all internal and external communications. So I'm responsible for all the print publications, for the editorial side of the website, and for internal documents, policy documents, email blasts that we do, and even employee forums to that degree. And then, yeah, and as far as getting our message out there, it's our social media as well. We've made that a much more targeted thing, as it was kind of haphazard in the past, and now it's a little bit more targeted with specially created art by our art director Frankie Butler, and planned campaigns and such.
And does this also includes all the podcasts that you do also? That's part of the
Right.
communications.
So this is actually one of the things I'm proudest of, and probably my most visible accomplishment in the last 2 years. I started our whole podcast program, and I started it with Cover Stories with Chess Life. That was our first one back in 2018, in which we looked at each month's cover story more in depth. And then I also the second one was One Move at a Time, which is looking at people who are advancing our mission statement, and which you two were kind enough to be guests on recently. And you can find that in our podcast archives. And so I, at that point, dropped from host of Cover Stories, and now John Hartman, our current Just Life editor, is the host of that podcast. The next one we brought in was from Jennifer Shahadi. She does Ladies Night, which focuses on women in chess. And then the last one to round out our month of podcasts, and every podcast drops on Tuesday, which we call Podcast Tuesday, is Pete Karianis's. He's our assistant director of events, and his is called Chess Underground. And it looks at chess eccentricities and peculiarities, and only the way that Pete, who's a very talented writer and media guy himself, is able to do. And you can find all of these on our website at uschess.org, specifically at new.uschess.org/podcasts. You can also subscribe to these all via Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, formerly iTunes, and Spotify. Oh, also Podbean now.
And I just put
we have
link in the chat.
We have Alexei in the chat and asking, I love the podcast, but I missed the best question contest. When will that return to Cover Stories Just Life, or perhaps move to another podcast?
Yeah, so I had very, very high hopes with Cover Stories when I started it. Not only did I have the guest that I talked to, I also had a best question contest that was sponsored by U.S. Chess Federation Sales. And I also had a little segment where I would talk to someone for 5 minutes as well, usually someone from our staff or such. When you have a new host like John Hartman, it is it's a different viewpoint, and he needs to put his stamp on it. And he didn't think that was working for him, so he's doing it his way. So thank you, Alexei. Alexei was, by the way, our most dedicated person for submitting questions on a month-to-month basis. So I'm not surprised that she's missing it, because I think she started to finally have to declare the $50 a month income on her taxes.
And I remember I submitted a few times, and right away I won, like, oh my God, and I have my US Chess Women mug, because I won like $50 gift certificate to the shop, and I was really happy. I got some necklaces for my daughter, so it was really, really fun. Back to Chess Life magazine. The magazine has been long-standing, and we get several members who want to donate their magazines because when they have to move, but they have all these years with every edition, and it's quite valuable, because if they have all the issues. So along those 15 years that you've been the editor, you have to select a cover story for every Chess Life, right? What was your most memorable cover of the past 15 years? Do you remember?
Yeah, so there's a few that stand out. one of the first ones that, and this is often a very much something that is done hand in hand with Frankie Butler, she's now she's the prime graphic designer for us. One of the first ones we did, and I think it was either 2006 or 2008, when Shabalov won one of his U.S. championships. And she found a very talented photographer in the Pittsburgh area where Alex lives. And it was a very cool vibe that we had with a chessboard set up on top of milk crates that were kind of overturned and such. That one has always stuck with me, and possibly because A, it was very good, and B, because it was very early in my tenure. And I said, oh, look at the power of this medium and look what we can do. But overall, my absolute favorite cover is Timur Garyev's skydiving one.
Yeah.
One, I can't believe we pulled that off. It was, we did a little bit of budget busting to make it happen, but it was very well worth the time. And that came from, with a great deal of help from Jennifer Valens out in your neck of the woods in California.
Yeah.
It was her, it was her story. I knew when we were doing a story on Timur, on his Breaking the Blindfold record, that we had to do something special. And in my mind, something special was, Timur doing something, he's also a long distance runner. Maybe we could do something like that. And Jennifer said, he's a skydiver. And so we decided to try to make that work. And she had contact with a skydiving, someone who does commercial photography, has had commercials. If I remember correctly, he's even had a commercial that was aired during the Super Bowl one year. And he worked for us at a very reduced rate. And we got video and a great cover photo of Timur with a chessboard skydiving.
There was one cover that I absolutely loved. And we actually get a lot of Mechanics Institute members donating back their collection of chess lives. So we keep it in the chess room for people to come take a look at. In addition, we have it in our archives. But there was one cover, and it was probably a couple of years ago. It was, I think it was showcasing like the Army-Navy match. And so you had these cadets on the cover. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it was a fantastic looking cover. I thought it was awesome to cover chess from that angle because, I think you never really see, military chess, just like you have the Army-Navy game in football. You have Army-Navy matchup in chess, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and you're actually making me realize one of the great lost opportunities for a cover that I had. Right when I started, the Iraq War was still going on, and I very much I knew from stories I saw that chess was being used for recreational purposes on the bases in Iraq, and I thought if we could get a cover, with people maybe playing on a tank or something like that in Iraq, that would have been probably would have been one of my favorite covers still. Yeah. But it proved extraordinarily difficult. Not surprising, they had bigger things on their mind. But from my end, it was a lost opportunity that I tried for a number of years to make happen, and it just never happened. So I'm glad at least one military cover caught your eye, Abel.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Can I ask you one question about your writing? Is that something you did in high school and in college? Like, how did your interest in writing, or is it just something you've always done?
So I was extraordinarily lazy in high school and college. I knew I had kind of the view of the world kind of the way a writer does. And I was certainly an avid reader, but I was scared of the hard work of writing. And so I kind of avoided the advanced classes in high school, and I avoided it entirely in college and ended up as a psychology major, which was a topic I was interested in. But as you see, ultimately it went by the wayside. And when I told you that when I was a stay-at-home dad, I decided to try my hand at freelance writing, I found that I just had a natural talent for it. I had a natural ability. I could, I was at least trained well in the classes that I did have in high school and college. And my fear from high school and college was true. It's extremely hard work. To make something read easily takes a lot of work, hard work to make it read easily. And but I found I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process of putting it together. In fact, and while I don't get an opportunity to do much magazine writing anymore, which is a very specialized type of writing, I did just do the December cover story on John D. Rockefeller V's donation of a $3 million gift to U.S. Chess. So it's actually my very first cover story myself for Chess Life. And, that was not exactly a pop article type that we might normally do in Chess Life. This was much more of a strategically put together item. We had to be very, very careful, and it went through other people. It wasn't just my writing alone, but it was fun to get back in the saddle and pull up the old word processor, which is just Microsoft Word, and put the article together.
Well, at least you didn't say typewriter.
Yeah, which was my high school graduation present, by the way. So I think my parents kind of knew where I was heading.
Good.
I did enjoy that cover story quite a bit. And just for a shout out, next week we have John on the podcast, on our new social. I'm looking forward. I work with John at the Scholastic Council and some events, so I'm looking forward to that.
Great, and I highly recommend people listen. If they don't know John, one of the really cool things about him is because he carries that name Rockefeller. You tend to have certain impressions of him. In fact, in my podcast that just dropped, the December one for One Move at a Time, he was my guest there as well. I told him that people hear the name Rockefeller and they start to think about somebody that walks around in a top hat and spats on their shoes, and he is nothing at all like that. And as Chess Life editor John Hartman has said, he's one of us. He's a chess guy. This is what he enjoys. He's good at it, and quite literally, he's put his money on the line to help us out.
Yeah, but we'll talk with him about that and about his work. His work ethic is amazing. I learned so much from him. Back to you. Do you play any online chess now that we're during lockdown? Are you on ICC, chess.com, Chess? What's your favorite platform?
So I'm at chess.com.
Of course.
Yeah, no, just personally, this is not an official recommendation from US Chess. Chess.com is where I play, and I play a number of 5-0 blitz games every day. For me, that's stress relief. It's fun. And I'm doing that on an almost daily basis.
Do people know who you are?
And it's in my profile picture on chess.com, I've got a picture of me standing next to a US Chess banner. So it wouldn't be hard for them to put two and two together.
So if someone would ask you, if someone who is really reluctant to start playing online, because they don't like online, there's cheating, whatever the reason, and they are waiting to go back over the board, how would you convince them to try out online and play and tournaments?
I'd say trust the process. We have very stringent fair play guidelines in place that have been vetted by very smart people with good technical and statistical chops on our committees, and they reviewed the fair play guidelines at the online places like chess.com and ICC. And yes, cheating happens. We know that, but I feel like it's very, very limited. And and again, what's your main reason for playing? Is it because you're trying to win prizes, or is it because it's fun to do? And for me, it's fun to do. I've never won a chess trophy, not even a participation trophy, and that seems hard to do. So yeah, just give it a try. And of course, we are all going to be suspicious if we lose to a couple of good moves that, they must be cheating. But you know, if
But
they really are
it's
cheating,
in
the
practice, right?
algorithms are going to catch them.
And it keeps you in practice. I feel I always try to tell players that, well, you can choose not to play because of reasons that it's your own, but if you're not playing, you're gonna get out of practice. And then once we come back, all those players who did play online, they're gonna be so much advantage, right?
Oh, no, absolutely. Although I always find when I do finally play over the board, it always takes me a while to get used to the 3D board again from the 2D screen. It's surprising, you know, a lot of, especially because I almost exclusively play Blitz online. Although I do have, I think I played in at least one online quick rated on chess.com. But because I'm exclusively doing that, so much of my openings are just muscle memory. And then I lose that completely when I'm playing over the board because it doesn't translate. I have to use the old noggin again.
Actually, Judith and I were talking how I think players and tournament directors alike are going to go through a little period of where we have to reacclimate ourselves because we may experience a loss of that muscle memory, that repetition in terms of what we're doing and what we should look for, and looking at the clock and all kinds of things. So it'll be interesting how people feel it when we get back to
It's going to be a transition, a hard transition for everyone. So everyone will need a lot of patience and understanding.
But I think it's going to be a simpler transition than the transition we had from over the board to almost exclusively online.
Yeah. That's for sure.
That's true.
And actually, that's a great question. Talking about that transition, what has it been like for you? Because you sort of had to recreate a communication strategy that all of a sudden completely shifted to not only reaching out to people in advocating for online play, but getting people to, like you said, trust the process, be willing to try this kind of new format for a lot of people, especially people that were a little bit older that maybe didn't play online so much. What was that like? Because you almost had to reimagine a strategy and deliver it in little time.
Yeah, you're giving me a little bit of PTSD here. I described it when I was in the thick of it as if we were trying to reinvent the wheel on an almost daily basis. Because, you know, one thing is an 80-year-old organization, you know, we had very specific guidelines and procedures and routines in place that were almost happening automatically. And that just wasn't going to work as we made this pivot to needing to be going from an online organization, from an over-the-board organization to an organization that embraced online play as well. And, you know, so to that end, some things happened very rapidly. We introduced online quick, online blitz, online regular ratings so that tournament organizers and affiliates like yourselves could offer rated play again. Now, there's one thing we discovered is if rated play wasn't out there, our membership numbers plummet. And that's the main reason that people want to join our organization and stay a member of US Chess. Other things that had to happen were, we already talked about the fair play guidelines. Those had to be reviewed, and those were very technical documents that had to pass muster. And eventually they did, and those got published and hopefully gave a lot of people more confidence in what the product that they were being offered. And then another thing that was extremely time consuming for me is our official rulebook. So most people, I think, know Tim Just is the rulebook editor. What they may not know is that I'm the production and managing editor of that book. And so I believe it was Mike Hoffpower and Ryan Velez together kind of changed chapter 10, which was called Internet Chess. And it was only a few pages of very basic guidelines, and created a whole new chapter for the rulebook. And then we had to, it's self-published through Amazon, which is a bit of a complicated process with a book as complicated as the US Chess Rulebook is. But so Tim and I had to make that happen, which we did. And you can download, by the way, you can download chapter 10 for free from our website under the Play tab. And it's also available as the print book through U.S. Chess Federation sales, or a Kindle book through Amazon.
And Judith helped write that chapter 10, the online.
Oh, Judith.
Yeah, so kudos to U.S. Chess, because I have seen organizations just froze during the pandemic, start of the pandemic, and they didn't know what to do. And I mean, I kudos to U.S. Chess. They realized that we need to overwrite that chapter, and Mike Hoffbauer and Ryan Wells put together a team, a task force, and we met, I think, twice a week for 5 weeks or something like that. And we rewrote chapter 10, and thank God the General Assembly, or how do we call it?
the delegates.
The delegate meeting, yeah, the delegates approved it, and special delegate meeting approved it, and now it's in effect. And I do believe that actually probably contribute a lot of confidence to organizers so they can fall back. So, I mean, it's a lot of kudos to US Chess to see that and realize that and act on it. And I think people often don't realize how fast US Chess is acting on certain things during pandemic. They should compare things to other organizations, and they would appreciate more probably.
Right. Thanks. So, to some degree, it felt a little bit like trying to change the direction of a giant cargo ship in the middle of the ocean. It's very hard. And thank you, Judith, for your kudos to U.S. Chess. But I'm going to put that right back on you. It's our volunteers are our lifeblood. And Mike Hoffbauer and Ryan Velez, while they're on the executive board, they're still volunteers, and so all that work happened on a volunteer basis. Tim Just is essentially a volunteer in the work he's doing. I was the only paid employee working on the rulebook. So when you hear me complain about the time that I had to put into it, you can take that with a little bit of a grain of salt.
I want to ask you about the board orientation hobby that you have. When did you start that? And do you have a collection of all those misoriented pictures, misoriented boards? And when are you going to publish a book about those?
So, book probably won't be published because I'm not sure about the rights to all those photos. Because I grabbed them from screenshots and things like that.
That's true.
But first of all, I think many people have a misunderstanding about, and let's set the table a bit more. The misoriented boards, I'm talking about boards where the lower right-hand corner is a dark square instead of what's in our trusty rule book is a white square. And people think that drives me crazy just because it's going against the rules. And that's not actually what drives me crazy about it. What drives me crazy is I can understand someone who doesn't understand the rules of chess, that it would be completely natural to just put the board in any orientation. But you would think at least 50% of the time it would be right. And I'm convinced that at least 75% of the time it's wrong. That's the fact that gets me crazy. And I would love to set up a controlled study where you're asking people at random in a mall somewhere to just set up the board to see if they could get the pieces right, is what you might tell them. And what you're actually doing is seeing whether or not they're putting the board orientation correctly, and is the lower right-hand corner a dark square when they don't know what they're doing more than 50% in some statistically significant way, which might tell us something, because a dark square is a stronger color, and most people are right-handed, so they put it, is something subconscious going on like that. So that's what's happening.
It would be an excellent research topic.
I think so. And my wife absolutely rolled her eyes at me when I did this, but I did approach a couple of colleges saying, hey, I think this would be a good undergraduate research study. And I got radio silence back from the colleges. So who knows? But what I do is when I see these things on TV and newspapers, or TV and movies and in magazine ads and such, I snap a picture. I post it to Facebook with the hashtag Misoriented Boards. That's how I save them. I don't have them saved anywhere else. But I can certainly find them all on Facebook. that way. It's much like the Blitz chess on chess.com. It's fun. It's stress relief for me. It's a harmless little hobby.
Very nice. We have a question in the chat from Alexi. She's asking, what can chess players do to help you out in terms of getting you like stories from their cities or clubs, or can chess players do anything like that to help communicate the message of chess?
No. Thank you, Alexi. Continuing with the great questions. I don't have a $50 gift certificate for you though this time. So if it's not a story like the U.S. Championship or the U.S. Open, which are things that we're naturally going to cover, more than half the time, those stories come to us from people who shopped the idea to us. So if you have an idea for an article, or for something you think that should be covered, or there's a story locally that you think we may not be aware of, write to Chess Life editor John Hartman. The simple one to remember is letters@uschess.org. That'll get to him. But you can also find his actual email address, john.hartman, with 2 N's, at uschess.org, either on our website or in the magazine, and write to him directly and make the suggestion. It can also be something that's for Chess Life Kids, and that would go to Melinda Matthews. Maybe it's something that's better, especially if it's time sensitive. It could be better for CLO, Chess Life Online, on our website. And that also is managed by John Hartman. So please always share stories. That's how we that's how we feed the beast.
And John has been really awesome with us because we've sent him stories for Chess Life Online, and when we've had ideas for print, we send it to him. He's really communicative, and he's easy to work with. So definitely, if anyone's out there and wants to send stories, Chess Life is really receptive to that, and they get back to you. So
that's it's surprising how often people are surprised by that. I think they sometimes come to us and they think that we're some monolithic major corporation.
Chess.
And even Carol Meyer, our executive director, her phone number is available on the website. You call her and she will pick up the phone and talk to you. We're a small shop. We have under 20 people working for us at US Chess entirely, and part of the fun for us is interacting with members and the public.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming. I loved learning about your background and about the stories, and especially about the boards and what you at this research idea. I know like my scientific mind got this idea.
I'm like, you're feeding Judith's scientific curiosities.
I will find you an undergrad a professor who does this for research, and I'll connect you with them. That'll be my lifelong mission. Okay. Find you a researcher who can do this. So thank you so much for coming. Do you have any final message to our viewers and to anyone who might be listening?
Please join US Chess and renew your membership. Our members are the lifeblood of our 501c3 nonprofit organization. And your membership dollars let us do what we do. If you're already a member, we're in that season of giving. So you could please consider donating to US Chess. No amount is too small. Everything helps. You can join or renew at uschess.org and click on the join button. And if you want to donate, you can click on the donate button. So whatever works for you will be greatly appreciated by us.
And the U.S. Chess Federation has been continually active with a lot of events, keeping national championship events, moving them online, just trying to keep everyone together through chess. And I'm glad you're a part of making all that happen, and thank you for everything you do.
Well, thank you very much, and I take it right back to you because our affiliates are important to us as our members, and the fact that you guys put on events and have also made this pivot along with everybody else is appreciated by the parent organization. So thank you.
Dan Lucas,
Thank
U.S. Chess Federation Senior Director of Strategic Communication. Thanks for coming on, and enjoy your off weekend.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on. I really had a lot of fun talking to you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. And if anyone wants to give a Christmas present to someone as a chess membership, you guys can do that. And I put the link on the chat so you can access that. We are back live on Tuesday night with our round 6 and 7. If I 5 and 6. Sorry about that. I can't even count. 5 and 6. We will be busy this weekend with a FIDE seminar, and I will also, I'm honored to work at the K-12 Showdown. So I will pair those kids up, high school kids. I got high school kids. And then next Tuesday, we are back for the Tuesday night marathon. So join us. Abel and Paul will be online from 6:30. And before that, Paul will have his arena from 5 to 6 p.m. And it's always fun to play against Paul. So come join us, guys.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on Tuesday.